Good morning, readers. Today, we're going to start our new read aloud together, The Tale of Despereaux by one of my most favorite authors, Kate DiCamillo. She has also written many other famous texts, such as Winn-Dixie, The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane, one of my favorites, and Mercy Watson. If you haven't heard of any of those books, I encourage you to go to the library as soon as you can, or maybe even online and check out an ebook of some of those books. I started this read aloud online just to help my students as we are apart right now during distance learning because of the quarantine that we all have to go through together as a country. So if you live in California, Grass Valley like we do, or anywhere around the world, I invite you to enjoy together as we read this story. We'll stop along the way and ask each other some questions, and I'll give you some ideas to ponder. And at the end, you can write your answers and comments in the bottom of the YouTube chat box, and I'd love to hear what you think. So here we go. The Tale of Despereaux by Kate DiCamillo, illustrated by Timothy Earing. For Luke, who asked for the story of an unlikely hero. And readers, this is called the dedication page. So Kate DiCamillo dedicated this book to Luke. I wonder who Luke is. Maybe some of you can find out and write the answer in the comment area below. And this is the table of contents, and here we go. Book the first. A mouse is born. Chapter 1. The last one. This story begins within the walls of a castle with the birth of a mouse. A small mouse, the last mouse born to his parents and the only one of his litter to be born alive. "Where are my babies?" said the exhausted mother when the ordeal was through. "Show me to my babies." The father mouse held the one small mouse up high. "There is only this one," he said. "The others are dead." "Mon Dieu! Just the one baby mouse." "Just the one. Will you name him?" "All of that work for nothing," said the mother. She sighed. "Oh, it is so sad. It is such the disappointment." She was a French mouse who had arrived at the castle long ago in the luggage of a visiting French diplomat. Disappointment was one of her favorite words. She used it often. "Will you name him?" repeated the father. "Will I name him? Will I name him? Of course I will name him, but he will only die like the others. Oh, so sad. Oh, such the tragedy." The mouse mother held a handkerchief to her nose and then waved it in front of her face. She sniffed. "I will name him. Yes, I will name this mouse Despereaux, for all the sadness, for the many despairs in this place. Now, where is my mirror?" Her husband handed her a small shard of mirror. The mouse mother, whose name was Antoinette, looked at her reflection and gasped aloud. "Therese," she said to one of her sons, "get for me my makeup bag. My eyes are a fright." While Antoinette touched up her eye makeup, the mouse father put Despereaux down on a bed made of blanket scraps. The April sun, weak but determined, shone through a castle window, and from there squeezed itself through a small hole in the wall and placed one golden finger on the little mouse. The other older mouse children gathered around to stare at Despereaux. "His ears are too big," said his sister Merlot. "Those are the biggest ears I've ever seen." "Look," said a brother named Furlough. "His eyes are open. Pa, his eyes are open. They shouldn't be open." It is true. Despereaux's eyes should not have been open, but they were. So reader, I want you to think about the answer to this question, and if you have it, I encourage you to write it down below in the chat box. Why are they so shocked that the brand new newborn mouse, that his eyes are open? Is there something you know about how mice are born and maybe their life cycle that could answer that question? And if you don't know, maybe you could look up on the internet. Why is it a shock that Despereaux's eyes are open on the first day that he's born? I wonder if any of you know the answer, and maybe you could type it down below. It is true, Despereaux's eyes should not have been open, but they were. He was staring at the sun reflecting off his mother's mirror. The light was shining onto the ceiling in an oval of brilliance, and he was smiling up at the sight. "There's something wrong with him," said the father. "Leave him alone." Despereaux's brothers and sisters stepped back, away from the new mouse. "This is the last," proclaimed Antoinette from her bed. "I will have no more mice babies. They are such the disappointment. They are hard on my beauty. They ruin for me my looks. This is the last one. No more." And here's a picture of Despereaux lying on the blanket scraps. And if you can see in the background here, the mother Antoinette looking at her reflection in the mirror here, which is a shard of glass, and his siblings pointing at him. And the caption, and if you don't know, the caption is what describes what's happening in the photo. So here's a photo, and the caption reads, "Despereaux's eyes should not have been open." "The last one," said the father, "and he'll be dead soon. He can't live, not with his eyes open like that." But reader, he did live, and this is his story. Chapter 2, Such a Disappointment. Despereaux Tilling lived, but his existence was cause for much speculation in the mouse community. "He's the smallest mouse I've ever seen," said his Aunt Florence. "It's ridiculous. No mouse has ever been this small, not even a Tilling." She looked at Despereaux through narrowed eyes as if she expected him to disappear entirely. "No mouse," she said again. "Ever." Despereaux, his tail wrapped around his feet, stared back at her. "Those are some big ears he's got too," observed his Uncle Alfred. "They look more like donkey ears if you ask me." "They are obscenely large ears," said Aunt Florence. Despereaux wiggled his ears. His Aunt Florence gasped. So reader, do you know what the word gasped means? If you do, could you maybe act it out? What is a gasp? It's a What made Aunt Florence gasp again? Do you know which line in the text answers that question? What made Aunt Florence gasp? Despereaux wiggled his ears. His Aunt Florence gasped. "They say he was born with his eyes open," whispered Uncle Alfred. Despereaux stared hard at his uncle. "Impossible," said Aunt Florence. "No mouse, no matter how small or obscenely large-eared, is ever born with his eyes open. It simply isn't done." "His pa, Lester, says he's not well," said Uncle Alfred. Despereaux sneezed. He said nothing in defense of himself. How could he? Everything his aunt and uncle said was true. He was ridiculously small. His ears were obscenely large. He had been born with his eyes open, and he was sickly. He coughed and sneezed so often that he carried a handkerchief in one paw at all times. He ran temperatures. He fainted at loud noises. And most alarming of all, he showed no interest in the things a mouse should show interest in. He did not think constantly of food. He was not intent on tracking down every crumb. While his larger, older siblings ate, Despereaux stood with his head cocked to one side, holding very still. "Do you hear that sweet, sweet sound?" he said. "I hear the sound of cake crumbs falling out of people's mouths and hitting the floor," said his brother, Tulise. "That's what I hear." "No," said Despereaux. "It's something else. It sounds like honey." You might have big ears, said Tulise, but they're not attached right to your brain. You don't hear honey, you smell honey. When there's honey to smell, which there isn't. Son, barked Despereaux's father, snap to it. Get your head out of the clouds and hunt for crumbs. Please, said his mother, look for the crumbs. Eat them to make your mama happy. You are such the skinny mouse. You are a disappointment to your mama. Sorry, said Despereaux. He lowered his head and sniffed the castle floor. But reader, he was not smelling. He was listening with his big ears to the sweet sound that no other mouse seemed to hear. So I want you to think, that was the end of chapter 2. I want you to think about Despereaux and how he's feeling right now, according to how his mother and father and siblings treat him, how they're pointing out things that make him different. How do you think he feels? I don't know about you, but I might feel alone, scared, ashamed. Have you ever felt that way? Have you ever felt that way as someone in your life maybe made you feel different or ashamed about something about yourself? And it's okay to have those feelings of being scared and being alone. But what's not okay is just leaving those feelings inside. So if you have those feelings, it's really important to talk to someone. Talk to a teacher or a parent, a family member about how you feel, and maybe they could help you talk to those people and tell them how it's not okay for them to be rude and point out your differences, because all of our differences is what makes the world a beautiful and interesting place. So if you're having those feelings, I encourage you to talk to someone in your life about it, and they can help you. So your challenge today is maybe you would comment down below, or maybe you just write on a piece of paper or draw a picture. How do you think Despereaux is feeling? And can you give me some evidence from the text that proves that your answer is correct? So you might say, I think Despereaux is feeling blank, because in the book, the author writes, and then you might put a quote in from the book. I hope you enjoyed this read aloud today, and I can't wait to see you again back here for the next chapter in the Tale of Despereaux. Have a great day.